who live in Waverly, and I hope we enjoyed and feel anchored by today's invocation. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed by our city clerk, Carla Geyer?
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
A motion and seconded. Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. It becomes our approved agenda. Is there a motion to approve the May 15th and 22nd minutes also as distributed by our city clerk?
I move approval of the minutes for May 15 and May 22nd.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Motion seconded. Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. It becomes our approved minutes. We have a great privilege to have guest council people every month. Today the privilege is really high because we have Paula Stevenson with us, because she's also playing a wonderful role in helping us with Bremer Avenue, but she's done so much through the years. So many of us know Paula, but I've asked her, because a lot of us obviously can't because we're a growing town and new people and stuff. Can you say a little bit about your background and maybe your Waverly participation?
I appreciate being asked here. Thanks, Edith. I consider it an honor and a privilege to be part of the City Council for this month. I am Paula Stevenson. I am a former business owner. I owned a business for 18 years downtown called Picture This. We still are property owners downtown, so I have a vested interest in Waverly, and we live here. This year, I am the chairperson for the Chamber of Commerce and the Waverly Community Fund. And my current job now that I'm retired is I am the business liaison for the Bremer Avenue road construction. My husband and I raised our children here, most of them anyway. We have a blended family, so we have 5 kids and 10 grandchildren. And I love the city, so I just love to volunteer and do what I can to make this a better place. So.
It's great to have you with us, and everyone with whom you communicate on the Bremer Avenue, which is a lot because there's a lot of people who need to be talked to. Really appreciate your wonderful touch. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
This is the date, time, and place for a public hearing on the plan specs, contract, and cost to do the water extension from Bremer Avenue to the old CUNA building, replacing the 4-inch water main with the 8-inch piping. Any written comments on this one?
No, Your Honor.
Then I would invite any oral comments on this project. Hearing none, I close the hearing. Is there a motion, please?
Move approval of Resolution 1767, a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost of $176,646 for the First Street Southeast Water Extension 2017 project.
A second, please.
Second.
Council discussion. I think we need to talk a second maybe about, of course, this is just the plan specs, forms of contract, et cetera, but we'll be completing phase 1, obviously, before this takes place, right, City Administrator? And then late summer, fall?
Yes, sir. Our goal is to do this after phase 1 is completed downtown, somewhere between July and October, depending how things shape up with the contractor and their availability to do the project. Then that'll get it down to the CUNA building, which we're hoping would start some of their renovations in early 2018. Trying to do it next year would be difficult with the area potentially tore up with Bremer Avenue going into that phase right where that's going to happen as well. So that is the goal, is to try and get that done in the fall this year and be finished with it, and then the hookup and everything will occur as necessary. And then, as I said, CUNA will start hopefully in the early part of 2018 with the renovations eventually needing the water main for their sprinkler system.
Okay. Any other quick comments? Roll call vote?
Kangas,
Yes.
Lampy,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Scher,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Unanimously approved, Resolution 17-67. Is there, with this approval, is there a motion on the next resolution?
I would move Resolution 1768, a resolution awarding contract for the First Street Southeast Water Extension 2017 project to Denver Underground and grading of Denver, Iowa for the bid amount of $163,646.
Second, please. It's been some motion seconded. Council discussion.
This is part of our contribution to the renovation of the Keenan Mutual building, those type of things.
Yes, sir, it's correct. We were able to contribute up to a certain dollar amount. This surpasses that, which is what we needed so that we have all the points possible. And I think that definitely helped them land the tax rebates they were looking for from the state. And so we're excited to get this done, get this moving, and then it's up to them to get started and complete this project.
For the town, this is kind of exciting, making progress. Roll call vote, please.
Lampy,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Scher,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 17-68 unanimously approved. At this time, I'll entertain any comments by the public on any items not on tonight's agenda.
This is just a brief reminder for those of you on the council that haven't been using Cedar Lane since the construction has started on Main Street, and the procedure to do the improvements was dropped. Don't lose track of that. The deterioration is going on pretty quickly. The amount of traffic is considerable this summer, and it will be again next year with the rest of the work, and the shoulders are crumbling quite badly. We had blowouts here just a couple weeks ago in which we had to have the ambulance come to pick up a bicyclist that did about a 15-foot fly and broke a helmet and had a minor head injury. So just keep it on your agenda.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I don't have anything prepared. Justin Scott, Eastern Iowa Atheist. I don't know if you could see my smile back there, but this is a very proud moment for not only me, but also for Mayor Infelt, City Council, City of Waverly. This is something that all of you should hang your hat on. I know that this has not always been an enjoyable back and forth between all of us. I know that there were some challenges for both sides, if you will. I applaud you, Mayor. I know this took a lot of soul searching, and I don't use the word soul, but I really appreciate this. I will do my best to support the City of Waverly from a governmental standpoint. If there's anything I can do to help encourage more atheists and non-believers to come in and try to play a part in this, especially reaching out to the atheists that are at Wartburg College. So to everybody on the council, if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out to me. But thank you, all of you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin. Any other public comments? And close the public comments. We have 3 items on tonight's consent calendar. They are a bill from Asplund Company for the trail project work. We have a bill from Midwest Concrete for the ped ramp work. We have a cigarette, tobacco, nicotine vapor permits to approve. They are from Casey's, Dollar General, Fairway Stores, Hy-Vee, Quick Star, Liquor and Tobacco Outlet, Prairie Links, Walgreens, and Walmart. Is there a motion?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion was seconded, right? Motion, it's been motioned and second. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Unanimously approved. Regular business item number 1 is to approve a service agreement with Bergen KDV to manage our tech services. City Administrator, maybe this would take a little bit of opening comment.
Yes, sir. The goal of what we've presented to you for possible approval is to kind of take care of our technology infrastructure. You know, we focused a great deal on our road and bridge infrastructure, our water and sewer lines recently. This is our technology infrastructure. I know during budget we had a number of conversations about, you know, the cloud. Should we be using it? Should we be not using it? We've had outages that occur. We've had computer issues off and on. And unfortunately, prior to what we hope occurs today, we really didn't have a contract in place. We were just merely operating until something broke or did not work, and then hopefully having Bergen come as quick as they could to fix it as quick as they could get it fixed. And that's not a very effective way to manage your technology or your infrastructure. And so I went into some conversations with Bergen about what could they do to truly take over our IT, which is what I thought we had initially, and we just did not. So along with what they're proposing will become strategic planning from a long-term standpoint of what our equipment would be, our additional budgeting assistance, off-site, on-site management, firewall protection, all the things that we have until it breaks. And I would like to think that a lot of the issues we are facing will be mitigated by having them on basically 24/7 and monitoring and taking care of this for us. So that is in a nutshell the pitch we have in front of you here is to have them completely take over our IT. We currently spend a fairly sizable amount of money every year in IT, and a piece of that's already going to Bergen. This will absorb that as well, so the overall cost is not quite the $59,000 you see here. Half of that we already are spending every year just on emergency calls and hourly calls to get things fixed as we go. And so we did kind of weigh out, you know, what would be able to do with an employee that could do this. Some of the issue there, as I've had in past careers, is one person cannot possibly keep up with all the technology changes that are occurring, vacations, et cetera. You're exposed at that point with a single individual doing this. And the cost of an individual may far outweigh the amount we're talking about here when you put benefits, et cetera, on. IT is a very competitive industry right now, and it's not something you just pick up someone on the cheap for. So to accomplish what we're wanting to do going forward and make us more robust in our ability to deliver services, whether it be to avoid outages, a day without email is not a very productive day. And we've had a few of those in the past year that I'd hate to think of what that cost us overall when you start looking at time lost, efficiency, et cetera. And so our goal is to prevent those from occurring and to move forward with the project just like this. And since they have been doing this for the longest time, I thought it fair to give them first crack at trying to do this for the next year or two to get us aligned and to make sure everything we're doing, whether it's software purchases or hardware purchases, fully integrates as it should instead of piecing in what we hope will work based on the cheapest possible cost. So that is, in a very long, brief statement,
That's brief.
what we're trying to accomplish.
No, I appreciate that. Let's discuss it after a motion.
Move Resolution 1769, a resolution approving a professional services agreement to begin July 1st, 2017 with Bergen KDV for information technology services for the estimated annual cost of $59,070.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion second, now council discussion.
James, I have a question. When I was reading the documentation for this proposal, it was not clear to me. Are we talking about a one-year contract with the ability to renew, or is this open-ended?
It's a 2-year, and then past that point in time, or actually any time during that point in time, there are provisions to get out of that contract after a certain amount of notice. But after 2 years, we would determine if we wanted to move forward again. Either party could then end the contract at that point in time, if not earlier, if you followed the provisions to get out. So, and Mark Oliver and Rich Stein are both here from KDV, Bergen KDV. If you have any specific questions or if you want to hear any statements from them, they both are in attendance tonight.
I guess just for public's sake, as far as budgeting wise, where does the budgeting for this come from and how does it compare with what we've previously spent?
As I said, we have spent probably at least 25 to 30,000 a year just in repairs and hourly rates to get things back online, get them repaired. We back 2 or 3 years. We spend at least 100,000 a year in just IT items, whether it be software upgrades. Not all of that with Bergen, obviously, but when it comes to repairs, it's been about 25 to 30,000. This first year out, we would pull the remaining balance from our capital project fund. We generally transfer a piece of money from the general fund to take care of a portion of those projects. I would like to pull that from there so that we can get this first year out of the way and not transfer the entire amount, just so that we can get this paid for, and then, of course, budget accordingly next year, trying to factor in what we've known in the year coming. We hopefully see reductions in some of the costs we're having. Obviously, I can't guarantee that a year and some out, but that is our hope and goal. And we'd reassess this each year to see if we're getting the benefit we hope to get.
What would the other costs be besides hardware and software?
If we have to purchase equipment, obviously, we're
Yeah.
still buying the equipment.
Right,
They would
right.
help install software, hardware upgrades that are for items maybe not necessarily covered by Bergen, because we have other companies that do software services for us, other agreements, other pieces of software and hardware that they, of course, are not responsible for. But anything that would occur from new equipment, new systems, they would install for a flat fee. But for the most part, it is covered in this, I don't want to say all-inclusive, obviously, but it is a very encompassing field that they're trying to help us go through. And if you look at the listing, I think on the items that we had attached in the agreement,
Just day-to-day support and everything, right?
it's everything, off-site, on-site. We will hopefully get to having less calls to a tech directly, more to the helpline. A lot of it will be done remotely instead of taking the time to bring people in-house. Firewall protection, which is becoming a huge issue. At some point, we'll have to talk about cybersecurity. Maybe get a small audit done. If we want a full-blown audit of our system done, that would be additional, because that's not something they just quickly come in and do. But a lot of it is to streamline the items we're using. Look at our servers. If we had additional servers, that would be on top of this. There may be servers that we're not using as much as we could from a capacity standpoint, some we don't need. I'm just excited to see what do we really have, so to speak, within the city, and what are we using, what are we needing additional, what are we not needing at all. And I think this will help to accomplish that. But they have a pretty specific list of what they will and will not cover under client responsibilities in the agreement, which is not wanting to cooperate here. I'm going to pause for a second.
Could I just ask, because I don't remember, I did look
Yeah,
at this.
absolutely.
But, I'm assuming application development is not included? He's nodding, okay.
Yeah, I would have to almost look out of the crowd myself and say, is that or is it not some of what we're talking about here? But any of the patches that we need would be included when Microsoft sends those out if they found viruses or problems. Any interaction with third-party vendors that are doing anything with our system. That's a lot of it is we don't have the expertise for that, nor would a lot of cities our size. And so we're hoping to really ramp up what we can do and get a lot more leaner in the technology, the process that we have, and more than anything, just avoid the downtime that does occur.
Can you give us an estimate of what the total IT expenses have been historically and what you expect them to be in addition to this contract now?
We have been running about 110,000 a year in various IT-related items, whether it be purchases. We had a lightning strike one year that did a little bit of damage. So if you factor all that out, we're probably in the 60, 70,000 range. It's just hard to say what it is year to year. Above that, it may be 50,000 or 75 that we're running on top of what this would accomplish. And again, most of that is for upgrades to systems that are not Bergen's, they're to other
Right.
software, and then the purchasing of equipment itself, which is above and beyond.
I mean, I think, the question that comes first to mind, and you did address it somewhat in your materials, is, it might be possible to get one person, to oversee that. for you here, but I guess in my experience, I think it's difficult to find one person who has expertise in all of the areas that you need. And so, I'm guessing that Bergen has a team of people and that they plug in whoever they need to for the particular issue at hand. So I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was kind of our goal as well. And we looked at the possibility of a person. But if you look at, say, $60,000, and about 30% of those fees are usually your benefits. So if you back that out, you're looking at $40,000 to find somebody to take on the entire city IT system, stay up to speed, and with the things that are happening around the world with the cybersecurity issues that come up, just the amount of equipment we have, the multiple buildings to service, one person could not possibly run that all over the city. While remotely, I would hope they could do some. Again, you're looking at boots on the ground. And I would hate to say as well, if you have somebody here, they're going to get called for everything all the time. Very minor, very simple things. Whereas if you have to go to a hotline or a group instead, you may not have quite all those calls and the simplicity of what some of this is to constantly be having them bothered with some of the very minuscule things that we run into, from how do I change my screensaver to what is my password, to all these little things. Now, they'll deal with that, but if you had someone in-house, I guarantee they'd be calling this stuff constantly. It's a little more daunting to have to call up a hotline and say, I don't like the color of my screensaver. Could it be purple? You'll hopefully pass on that. At least that's our hope. And I say that because that does happen. Do you not get those calls once in a while? Yes, we do. So
Who's going to be the point person on staff, or which department?
I think by default, it's myself right now. I'm hoping to delegate that out. We're still working through the single individual I hope to have that will take the request almost like a work order system, to where if you have issues, it will route them through a single individual instead of having every employee dialing that line constantly for outages or problems. So we're still working through that piece of it, and by July 1st, we'll have that identified and taken care of before this engages.
Other input on this?
Good step forward.
Dan, Dave?
No, I think it's good. Everything you mentioned is positive. Plus, this company has a view from above and across industries and so forth, so they can provide that strategic direction. So, yeah, it's good. Plus, we're backed by a team instead, like you said, if somebody goes to lunch and somebody trips on the cord. So
That does happen.
we're, so, yeah, it's positive. I appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Dave? Dan? Anything?
Sounds good.
Dan? Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnichek.
Yes?
Scher.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
Resolution 17-69 unanimously approved. Regular business item number 2, special event permit for our firefighters to host the 2018 September convention. There'll be probably discussion on this one. Maybe we can go directly to a motion, however.
Move approval of special event permit application for Waverly Volunteer Fighters Association for September 1st through September 9th, 2018.
A second, please.
Second.
Motion seconded. Council discussion. First, that's a long way off, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking probably an obvious question is why now, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of planning in place, and
We called it, Dennis.
you need the commitment first, so.
Correct. There's a ton of stuff that has to be done and gotten in line for this, as with what we did at the 16 convention. So we need to get started and get our ducks in a row and make sure that everybody's on board. We will have meetings that will encompass the entire city that will be open to the public. We will have meetings with the business owners of Waverly so that they can give us input, and we want to make sure that we have enough time to get everything in and get everything planned. And with being a volunteer organization, it takes us just a little bit longer than it would if we were a professional group.
Who's Rob Edgar? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Rob Edgar?
Yeah.
That's the gentleman
Oh.
standing right there.
Hi there.
Rob's been on the department for 15 years.
Quick question on mechanics. I guess I assume this would go through planning and zoning for a provisional use, or is that being extended from last year?
We did that last December. At that council level. It went through P and Z and it came here.
Okay. No wonder I didn't see it on their agenda.
That authorized the campground use and everything at that point in time.
That was related to the private property that's zoned agricultural, and that was the use that was required for that aspect of it.
Must be too busy. I lost track of that.
I forgot to.
This
then-
piece is more of the public property, whether it be street closures, the utilization of the park ground, all those items that would be more public property would come through then this permit process.
At that point, this is probably the first large-scale event that we've used the new process with.
The new one?
The new process here, the application,
uh-huh.
that type
I
of
see.
thing.
We'll
So
be using Oktoberfest, this for Oktoberfest also.
at least as you read through it, it's very helpful to see all the pieces together. And
It was helpful, but there were several things that weren't filled out, so I just had questions about those.
Sure.
The setup time and the takedown time. The neighbors last time, again, I'm just trying to listen to what the neighbors said the last time, and they were concerned about some things being out there a long time.
You bet. If you've driven by the site, the electrical equipment that was installed for the 16 convention is still in place. And obviously, that will stay in place through the 18 convention. At that time, everything will be removed. It's our agreement with the Waverly Light and Power that they can remove it at their will. So I can't give you an exact date when the convention is done. It will be totally stripped by that time. The white boxes, et cetera, that we are responsible for will be coming out of the ground the fall of 18 because they have to be packed up and sent to the next convention for 19, if there is one. And so the overall aesthetics, except for the high power poles, will be completed, I'm saying probably by the end of October of 18, excuse me.
And that's for kind of tear down stuff or take down
Yeah.
stuff. And then what about the concern over I forget what that surface is called.
The lime,
Yeah.
the lime area?
Yeah.
That will be addressed at the same time. Obviously, if we can find a contractor that needs that may stay there till spring. That is, I forget how many tons we put in there. There's a substantial amount of lime there to get rid of, and obviously we will try and sell that back or sell it out, so to recoup some of our costs. If not, it's ag lime, so it can be spread on the field. It's just getting an applicator to put that on that will put it on after it's been down once.
So that would be spring of 2019.
Correct.
And then, I don't know how, I can't remember exactly where the agreements were. Then what happens with the possible reseeding of the grass that some of the neighbors were concerned about, or the prairie grass? Was there any agreement about whether the city was doing that, whether
That would
you
fall
be
under,
doing that?
that would fall under us as far as getting everything reseeded and put back.
And
we
that
agreed to
wouldn't
do.
happen, though, until latest the spring of 2019?
During the 16 convention, we seeded everything in the fall and let it come up, and that's what I would anticipate being able to do, weather permitting.
In fall
with
of
the exception-
2019?
Yeah, with the fall of 18.
18.
With the exception of the tent site, which may fall into the spring of 19.
Yeah. And if I can go through the other ones that weren't answered, if that's okay. You don't know how many portable toilets yet?
We should have,
Last time we brought in just under 250 porta potties, and that'll
Okay.
be adjusted by the attendees.
Okay. But that's what it was the last time?
That's what it was
Correct.
last time.
Okay. And garbage removal, there were options there, either you or the city, so.
We worked in conjunction. We had to collect it and put in the dumpsters at the entrance, and then the city came out with the garbage trucks and
Okay.
hauled it off.
And that worked okay to everybody's satisfaction?
Thought it worked very well. Yeah.
and no indemnity agreement and no insurance certificate, and I'm just wondering when, if and when those come into play, or damage deposit or permit fee.
The damage deposit fee, I mean, we're open for any time. I'd assume that would get paid towards the end. As far as the insurance, et cetera, the dram shop can't go into effect until 30 days before or 30 days or 2 weeks. I can't apply for it before 30 days to the event. And so that will be short-term. The long-term liability, et cetera, will be applied for, and that will be in effect probably this fall when we start working out there. But that's on the private ground side. On the city side, which is your concern, it basically falls on the same thing, the same timeline.
Okay. Thanks.
You bet.
Wonderful questions. Thank you, Councilperson.
Guess, again, there's been a couple questions just asked about traffic flow, those type of things. I think in checking with Mike, the Bremer Avenue redo should allow First Street to be opened up so that we can use the fire station for the staging area, check-in area. At least that's the plan at this point, just kind of keep everybody in the loop there. So we try to manage the traffic the same as we did last year. Try to keep them off of Main Street, out of the construction as much as we can.
That would be our intent, and, if something comes up unforeseen, we'll modify. We'll make it all work.
Other questions? Stay there in case we have, say, public comments.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I had just a question for James, and I guess for staff in general. There's no signature from the city administrator. Does that mean anything? And does it matter to staff in general if some of these things aren't clarified before we take action on it here?
No, actually, my intent was to always have it come to council because it's such a sizable event. While we were getting paperwork in, it did not cross my desk prior. We'd reviewed a chunk of it. A lot of the concerns that we had have been addressed. One of the bigger ones, I guess, is Bremer Avenue. That will be probably tore up. I know you kind of have the water ball fights down there. Do you have like an alternate location?
We'll work on that. Yeah.
Okay. So I know at one point last year, the post office calling in kind of hot because there was a road closed down out of the blue. Brown Avenue just was closed at one time. We won't have that happen again, will we?
No, that was due to the rain and miscommunication on our part.
There's those things that we're kind of hearing, and we just want to make sure we don't have that again.
And that was for, I think, 2 hours that had happened.
Yeah, it could have been very brief.
Very short duration.
Will you be having events downtown? I remember that the merchants were very happy because not only were they well attended, but there was a lot of shopping going on.
You bet. Yes, we will have events. Where they will be, we're going to have to see
where the city is.
Where the city is with the reconstruction project and what's going to work best for everybody.
Sure.
And Dennis, have you, since the last one, have you or any representation from the firefighters met with the neighbors around there about this next one?
We will be having public meetings after this is approved for the community and also for the businesses.
As this is, 15 months out, do you anticipate additional meetings as it gets closer next year with some of the public as it does ramp up?
We're kind of trying to gauge what the best time is, if we want to do that yet this year or if we want to wait till, maybe April, May of next year to address it so that it's fresh in everybody's mind. I can see the advantages both ways. If somebody has a major issue, we have more time to work on it. In talking with the residents up there, I mow up there every week, so I'm pretty well known as I drive by, and we haven't had any issues. In fact, most people have asked if they can help in any manner with the next phase. So, yeah, we're we're flexible. Any input is more than welcome. We can hold 2, 3, 10 meetings at whatever, if you guys have a specific way you'd like it addressed, we're very open.
Do you see any change occurring when, I know you had it fenced off last year, I assume it'll be very similar placement.
Very
The,
similar.
Rain event, which unfortunately hit, and of course that can come down like a hurricane through that area. Is there anything that can be done to help alleviate that if it happens, or is that just, we roll the dice and?
Welcome to Mother Nature. Yeah, it's just, some of the pictures, firefighters floating down in their inner tubes, that
River
was.
coming through there, it was quite a sight, so.
Just adapt, just make the best of it.
And we're not going for 2020, are we? Is this?
No, this.
Okay. Just wanna
We wouldn't be going for 18 if the cards
check
hadn't
that
fallen
off.
just right.
Just want to make sure, so we're all aware of what we're doing, and so.
I'm supportive of the event,
Yes.
and I'm respectful of the planning time you need. I just hope we can agree that, or count on, not agree, I know, but count on the fact that those concerns that were articulated by some of the residents the last time, that we take those seriously and that we really try to address them. And as I recall, it was primarily had to do with the park, which is no longer a park, at least not as it was. And, even though it's way out there, which some people aren't happy about, but that we really make a commitment to reestablishing that. And also, that we have some sort of curfews for music and noise or louder noise in general, that we honor those. Those were the two main things I heard from. And so I guess I just want to make sure that we, that we try to address those this time so that we can honestly look people in the face afterwards, in the eyes, and say, yes, we did everything we could.
Sure.
To both have this wonderful event and not have it be too disruptive or inappropriately disruptive for the residents.
You bet.
Thank you, Councilman. That was helpful. Other comments?
I have only one more comment, and that has more to do with staff, sorry. Because this is the first time we're using this form, I would just ask that, the next time either everything's filled out or you guys let us know in advance that it doesn't matter. Because otherwise it sort of begs the question of, why don't we have this information? So if you don't care about that information, if you could just let us know.
We'll absolutely do that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to leave. I appreciate you going through the work and doing this. I mean, it puts it in perspective. It's, when we talk about 250 porta potties, that puts this in perspective. And all the work that you do and your planning so far out, this is quite an event. So,
Well, thank you. I think it was well received last time, and we hope we even have a better turnout and happier people this time.
yeah, that's progress for Waverly. Thank you.
Is there any public input on this before we vote? All in favor, signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Been approved unanimously.
Thank you very much for your
Dennis.
time.
Thank you. Regular business item number 3 is the acquisition of property from Clan Properties for our airport expansion. City Administrator, any quick comments going into this?
About, I guess it's a couple weeks, Bill, probably, before we had our hearing set, we received an offer from the Clan Properties, and basically, pretty much the offer they provided. We went through the FAA and checked on it, made sure the money was okay. We moved forward from their offer. We didn't really counter much of anything, very minor details, and so what you're seeing here is primarily the first offer that we had gotten back, actually probably ever from that group. I don't think we'd had much countering till this point. And so that is what you see in front of you, and we're just requesting that the council approve the acquisition of property resolution to authorize us to go forward with this.
Sounds good. Motion, please.
I move approval of Resolution 17-70, resolution authorizing acquisition of property from Clan Properties LLC for the purchase price of $395,000 for the Waverly Municipal Airport Safety Zone Expansion Project.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Council discussion.
I know there was some questions on the outbuildings, those type of things. I'm assuming we've worked out a lease back or usage arrangement as part of this, and
I'll let Bill go into the detail of what the agreement was.
We did. We're going to leave the building in place. That was not required to be removed. And we'll lease it back for a minimum of 5 years. And we've made provisions for that first 5 years. And then after that, we have we can control what we do after that. Generally, we want to keep the land leased around the airport that we don't need to fence in. And so we'll try to keep a lease agreement with that property going forward.
More discussion?
I guess, so in talking, I wonder, so we're buying the land today, but not doing anything for several years, but they're paying rent now? Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason we have to, I mean, if we're not going to touch the property, why would they be paying rent on something are they not able to use?
They'll be able to use the land. They're going to be farming it this year, and they'll be using the building.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess I was confused about that. Okay.
Yeah. They'll go ahead and farm it, and they'll pay us rent starting next year, actually. We didn't get any rent for this year, is the way it worked out, but they'll start their rent for next year, March 1st payment.
Also, it looks like the clan property or the current landowners have to maintain the well.
Well, the well is there, and generally we would remove it when we remove the house and the septic. It doesn't, an agricultural purpose for the well wouldn't depend upon having a septic, so we're going to leave it in place so that they can use it to water in the barn. But if it's not necessary for us, we would ask them to repair it or do any repairs to it if they needed to use it.
I guess I wouldn't, speaking for the family, this wasn't their wish. I mean, I hope we all understand that. They never intended to be paying rent to the city back on their own property one day, so that's a concern of mine.
Other discussion? Public input? Roll call vote, please.
Reznacek.
No.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
yes.
This is approved 5-1. And thank you for all the good work everywhere, and hopefully that's as happy a resolution as possible. Regular business item number 4 is an engagement agreement with Ayler and Cooney for the sale of bonds offering, which are forthcoming. This is always a legal requirement we do this. I think so. I'll go directly to a resolution.
I'll move Resolution 1771, resolution approving an engagement agreement between the City of Waverly and Ahlers and Cooney PC in its capacity as bond counsel for proceedings for not to exceed $2 million general obligation bond, Series 2017A, and not to exceed $650,000 taxable general obligation bond, Series 2017B.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion seconded. Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote, please.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Resolution 17-71 unanimously approved. Regular business item number 5 is an agreement with Feldman Concrete on their bonds and insurance to do our City Hall parking lot. A motion, please.
Move Resolution 1772, resolution approving bonds and certificate of insurance from Feldman Concrete for the City Hall parking lot improvements 2017 project.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote, please.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Reznacek.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Resolution 17-72 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 6, an agreement with the same company to do our alley reconstruction. Motion, please.
Would move resolution 1773, a resolution approving bond and certificate of insurance for Feldman Concrete for the downtown alley reconstruction 2017 project.
Second.
Second.
Motion seconded. Council discussion.
Timing on this, as far as front door, back door access, that type of thing?
I think we're looking at this one being the alley behind it. Is it Bremer Diner? That block probably this fall. Once they get done with the first piece of that, we'll try to work in the timing, get it done yet this fall. Then we'll move into the other one in the spring when that area is cleared from construction as well.
Good question.
This says construction window is July 10th through September 29th.
Yes, I believe that's correct, because we're hoping to be done with that first phase by June 30th still. I know there's a lot of stuff happening, but that's what we're hoping to get. I don't know if we can go later than that. Is there a provision, or is that pretty much when we have to do it?
Between June and September?
Yeah.
That's when we want to do it.
Okay.
But
Just a microphone.
they should.
We won't ask for a mic unless you're going to keep talking, then we're going to on the mic here.
They should be done with this phase 1 of the Bremer Avenue work here, around July 4th. So we, gave ourselves another week cushion, time-wise. So the contractor will work with us because they've got 3 separate projects. They could be doing the city hall work before they move on to the alley work or the library. So it's the same contractor for all 3 projects, and so they'll look at staging them. They'll work with us. They've done a lot of work in town before. They've been very good to work with, and so I have every confidence in their abilities and in their willingness to coordinate the scheduling with us as well.
Paula wants to know how hard she has to work.
I am curious because I'm not seeing it. What besides the East Bremer Diner alley, like what other alleys are going to be addressed?
This coming year, the other one will be behind Dean's Light Box, that area to the south, behind his area. I think that's only 2 we have for this year. Depending on funding, we could get into some others, but right now we just had those 2 identified for the next coming year.
We'll do that next spring.
Yes.
I was just trying to make sure that if you're doing the pipe to the CUNA building, that alley behind there wasn't going to be.
No.
We try not to overlap that much all at one time. It makes it challenging.
Well, and I'll wait till you get to the library one because that's the same kind of concern.
Right. And it's all timing. We're going to try, as Mike said, to kind of work that in the best that we can with the construction process that's happening in Bremer Avenue. So they're very flexible, and I think they'll be good to work when we can do it.
That's how hard you're going to have to work.
I know. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, more council discussion, public input. Roll call vote, please.
Kangas.
Yes.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnichek.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Resolution 17-73, unanimously approved. Regular business item number 7 is agreement with the same company to do our library parking lot repair. Formal motion.
I'll move Resolution 17-74, resolution approving bonds and certificate of insurance from Feldman Concrete for the library parking lot improvements 2017 project.
Second.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Council discussion. I have Sarah here in case she's getting nervous. All right. I'm putting a time limit on council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote, please.
Lampy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Resnichek.
Yes.
Scherer.
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Resolution 17-74 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 8 is the cancellation of our June 26th, 2017 study session meeting, which I've kind of read your proposal. I should have just asked for it. Now you're going to have to formally do it, folks. Is there a motion for regular business item number 8?
I'll move cancellation of the June 26, 2017 study session meeting.
Thank you. Discussion?
Is there a reason for that? What's the reason for that?
City Administrator, just lack of agenda, I think, right?
We don't have anything necessarily planned, and it was mentioned the possibility of canceling it because of that issue. I mean, we can always find something to put on there, but if there's something in particular council would like to have on there, we certainly can. But it was just mentioned by some council that maybe we need to just cancel one of these as we're getting into the summer, and it just comes down to, frankly, comes down to attendance at times for some of the meetings. And
I guess
with June, that's kind of what was brought up to
all
put on for a
transparency, I
possibility.
guess I kind of asked for this to be put on here after talking to a few council folks. And if you look historically, our study sessions are the poorest attended. And I'm assuming the summer months will have everybody busy. So instead of having a basic 4-person meeting, it just seemed like it'd be better staff time as well as our time if we would just look at canceling a couple of the summer ones to allow better discussions, more full council meetings in the fall again.
And you checked with James on whether staff had anything that they thought, was timely that needed to be discussed in the summer, and they didn't have
Do
anything.
you have a second person for your agenda
Yep.
request?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I had 3 of them, or 2 extra.
I think in the past, I mean, the way I've always done it is to actually submit a memo so there's transparency on who that second person is.
I think that was submitted to staff. I don't know that we've always seen that. Every council member. Maybe you've done it that way, but certainly hasn't always been done by everybody.
Certainly an email exchange out there that includes 3 council people.
And that's the way I think, just out of transparency, that should be, I thought that was a requirement.
I think
We don't have any guidelines.
It's a good point. Normally,
That's always been the guideline, though.
Not really.
if staff puts it on too, then
We
can go
we
under
can't
that,
eliminate
but,
things that you don't agree with. I just thought that was what we did. We've been following that, but
yeah, it's just kind of a general
My
rule
understanding,
we've been
yeah.
following.
In practice, it's not anything formalized, but
But yeah, we haven't formalized anything on this,
I
but
think
it's the policy I've been following too.
It's evidently not required, but I kind of like David's suggestion for transparency. I wouldn't mind knowing who the folks are, just for our information.
then to me, it appears a little bit kind of under the table type, and I think that's what we were trying to avoid with the second person.
And I don't disagree with you, David, but it is not true that it's been done that way every time. It just isn't. You can go back and find it, and so that's all I'm saying is to bring that out now as sort of a, first time that anybody's done that just isn't accurate. And I agree with you. I have no problem doing. This. I was one of the 3 people that responded to 3 or 4. I can't even remember. To Dan's suggestion, and I don't have a problem with doing that in the future consistently. But unfortunately, we don't have things like this as a protocol in writing, and there were several council members who consistently argue against that. I would love to have some of that kind of protocol stuff in writing, then we wouldn't have to debate this now.
I think
But
I
it's
brought
a
that
good-
to a council meeting with an agenda topic with the second person on the memo.
Yeah, and if you're willing to be the second person, rather than the third or whatever, so be recorded that
I guess I've seen
introduced by
this.
Dan, and second person would be Edie. But I think this also came a bit from staff, so, but it's good discussion. Thank you, David.
We need to be
Any other?
transparent. I didn't see that here, so the way the discussion is going, so.
Okay,
Thought I
summarize it.
followed previous
Go ahead if you want.
process.
Pardon me?
I thought I followed the previous process, so if I erred, I apologize, and we can certainly-
No, I think I'll be okay. All in favor signify with yes.
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 Opposed with no, unanimously approved. Regular business item number 9 is a discussion of moving the July 3rd meeting to July 10th. Obviously, we're dealing with a Monday being the 3rd, and you got the next day being a holiday. This makes some sense to me, but let's discuss it.
Yeah, it just makes sense that, yeah, 3rd is a working day, but the 4th is a holiday. And again, back to working days after that. So it just seems, for at least for the evening wise, go ahead and let staff have that evening, the 3rd off. Come back on the 10th, and we can do the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th in July if needed, 3 straight weeks.
We need the 3rd one. Okay.
If needed on that. My recommendation would be then, if we're going to do that, can we make that like the second resolution next week to do that, so that it's resolution 17?
Next meeting?
We can try to accommodate that if that's your wishes.
Oh. Okay.
I can go either way. I'm here for both.
Let's move on that assumption, James, and then we can formally vote on that 2 weeks today.
Hang on. We don't have to
We don't have to.
have a resolution on that.
We just agree to it? Can we parliamentary, can we do it right now with a motion in a second? Would anyone like to so move then?
Well, I don't know that we can do that as a motion now, because it's on the agenda, was on the agenda just as a discussion item, not as.
Oh, yeah, good point. Right. We would have to put that on the next one.
Action item.
On the 19th. Sorry.
No, that's fine, as long as our attorney who watches parliamentary procedure is not upset.
Trying to digest
That's right. Regular business item number 10 is mayoral appointments. I'd like to reappoint Mary French, who's been a valuable person on the Planning and Zoning Commission. She's an architect and brings a nice perspective. Is there a motion to approve Mary French
Move approval of Mary French.
being reappointed?
Reappointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor signify with yes.
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 Opposed with no. We have the Historic Preservation Commission minutes for March 27th to officially receive. Any comments? Officially received. Library Board of Trustees minutes for April 11th to formally receive. Comments? Officially received. Planning and Zoning minutes for May 4th. Officially received. Staff comments.
I don't know that we have any staff comments. We do not.
Okay. Council comments. Let's start.
I just have a question of what the best way, maybe either staff or fellow council people think, what should we do about the question about the fireworks that we got from the citizen? How do we go about answering those questions, or has somebody already answered those questions? Do we need to discuss that at a future meeting?
I kind of brought that up, and I know James and the staff have kind of looked into it a little bit to kind of see how the state law compares to what ordinance and other things that we might have in place in the city that cover some of the same crossovers on that.
Right, with the timing of what the state did, it was almost impossible to get a
Sure.
ordinance drafted and done. We have a lot of samples from a lot of cities, limiting anything from the hours to the type of fireworks to eliminating them altogether from city limits, period, which was interesting, to public property, which I do think the state law itself lists public property, or that it has to be done on your own real property or permission given by another private property, but it does not allow, at least our interpretation, to be on public property, unless, of course, the city permitted it. And then it also outlines days and hours, and so in a sense, there's a number of cities just basically allowing the state law to reign over this issue, and just kind of going to see how this first episode goes. And then some have gone the route of throwing agendas together and getting ordinances passed through quickly, skipping readings, whatever it may be, to get it in place and on the books before the 4th comes. So I know it was brought up at one time, should we discuss it? There really wasn't a lot of consensus to go ahead and bring something forward to be formally discussed. We can certainly do that. But right now, we're just looking at state law to be the authority on it at this point for the city of Waverly.
Yes, my one, and I had mentioned it before, and I guess of looking at it, the one concern that I have the biggest is the sales, and how does that, what are the restrictions or regulations in terms of where they can be sold, and who can allow what kind of setup they have, et cetera. That people firing them off, they're going to fire them off, and I guess the law essentially allows that, and that's going to be and that's fine. It's more, what do we have, or what should people know in regards to?
The state's pretty much preempted the ability to control sales, except for the normal things like getting vendor permits, being properly zoned for wherever they're selling those things. So it's really going to be leaning on that law right now, and then.
But individual.
To do the vendor permits through the city or whatever.
If it's a transient merchant permit, they're going to have to get
Other
one of those
property.
permits. Yeah,
If it's private property, I don't know if that applies.
it has to be
necessarily.
properly zoned for that kind of a operation.
How does that line up with our zoning, or does that?
I assume it'd be in a commercial zoning requirement. Yeah.
But individuals setting them off, regardless of where they've purchased them, is exactly what this citizen was concerned about.
There was concern about that, and that one's a harder one to, people have been setting them off for years, even before the law was changed, so.
I mean, the state does limit the days in which it can be done and the hours in which it can be done and the fact that it can't be done on public property. So we want to keep it out of the parks at this point because that was the intent. I think there'll be some enforcement of after hours if it's later than it should be. We want to make sure that we don't keep people up all night long. And I think what we'll be doing is, as a city, we'll probably be putting out the terms of that law in plain language so that people are aware of that. And we'll try to do that on our Facebook page so that people can see, and probably in the newspaper, I'm assuming.
Good article for the paper.
And when will that be coming out?
Very soon. We started working on that. We've got some good suggestions from other communities, how they're responding to that information. So we'll be putting that out pretty soon.
Again, residents always have the ability to report it as a nuisance and follow our normal nuisance if it's noise or debris coming from somebody's yard, those type of things. So it's not that they don't have recourse, it's just not specifically spelled out using the word fireworks, that type of thing, so.
Yeah, I guess that's how I kind of respond, I think we're covered now until maybe a later time if we want to change something. But personally, I would just want to follow our existing ordinances and let the system do its.
Yeah. Our existing ordinance responds, it basically provides for providing permits for displays. And we would still, if there was a public display that was going to be done by a professional, we'd still issue a permit for that.
Right. Heritage Days does that, and
Right.
that's why we are, even though fireworks are banned in Iowa, that we can do them for various festivals or special occasions. There is the permitting process. It's just now it's open for private individuals on private land.
Right. But there's a difference between display fireworks and consumer fireworks too. So there's some discussion, there's some differences there. So I think we can see how this works with this limits and the time limits and the not public property limits, and we can see what's necessary after that.
I would add, too, that Dennis Happel, Fire Chief, informed us that members of the fire department are actually the ones who set them off for Heritage Days. So they're not professionals, but they know what they're doing.
They are,
There you go.
they're as professional as you can get. They have
There you
gone
go.
to training, been certified. A couple of them probably do 30 to 35 shows a year. So what gets done at connection with Heritage Weekend is again, very professionally done and done right and safe. And
The guys with all their fingers are the ones doing it.
so far,
Beautiful.
singed hair and
Councilman Lampe?
couple of weeks ago, we talked about bridge options, and we provided direction as far as a pedestrian bridge. I'd like to know what the status of that is, and what's been done.
Turn it over to Mike, and we're looking into those various options and getting some bids, but go ahead.
Well, we've reached out to a couple of consulting firms that have worked on bridges in the area that we're familiar with, and so we're waiting for their responses back, and that will provide us with an opportunity to review with the City Council a variety of styles of bridges and what the associated costs are. And from there, if you want to make a decision on moving forward with a particular style, then at that point we would look at engaging a consulting firm to put together a more comprehensive report and cost estimate as to what that bridge would in fact cost.
I guess I'd like to see, and I don't know, Tim or Dave too, I knew voted for this, a very short, concise list on, what we can afford, and input from you, James, as far as this on this.
Yes, I understood. From the last time we met, talked about this topic. We approved basically working with WHKS to put together a proposal of coming back and starting this process. I guess I'm surprised that we're kind of talking to consultants and seeing how that's going to go. I don't know what the timeline is for that. I understood we approved engaging WHKS.
To do what?
You guys wrote the...
Provide options.
Yeah, you guys wrote it, and we approved it. It was only, and we can go back to the agenda and see what we all approved, but we approved for WHKS to come back with a proposal on how they would move forward, and basically an estimate of what their cost would be to re-engage in taking this forward. I guess I'm surprised that you're doing this and reaching out.
Well, and that's the way I left the meeting, was that you can either engage them, and they don't know what style of bridge they're being asked to look at, or internally, we know enough pedestrian bridges that have been put up that we can reach out to those consultants and ask for information related to those and come back to the council at no cost other than staff time to review those options, costs, financing with the council before we decide to expense funds and engage a council or a consultant to come up with a more detailed proposal.
My understanding too is that WHKS already had this as one of their options. In our decision analysis that we'd been through 2 or 3 times, they had one of the options on there was a prefabricated truss bridge,
which was information that was provided by VJ Engineering in their study.
Okay.
It had not been vetted by WHKS.
Okay.
I mean, we talked about various bridges, from the Mayor's Bridge in Cedar Falls. We're trying to see what the costing of that was, which is a pretty expensive bridge.
That seems prohibitive. So
the pedestrian bridge in Janesville, some of the pedestrian bridges at Charles City, Des Moines. We're trying to get some plans and specs to see what those costs were, and trying to identify what that possibility is, just based on the span footage. So we're just trying to internally get that together instead of paying how many 100 per hour to have them do the same work, so they can come back to you with options and design possibilities. There was discussion of weight limits. Do you want a 5-ton, 10-ton, 20-ton? That was all discussed as well. I know they're going to look at that, the different pricing on the different amounts of limits you'd want for weight. And so that's what we're trying to do. And in the meantime, we also have Bremer Avenue construction, the Parkway construction, 20th Street going on. It's not the only project we have on our table, and we're trying to keep all that juggling going front as well. So we can move as quickly as we can, and we're trying to do it, with information we have. But if you'd rather we engage them to start that process and pay that additional, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, the resolution was a resolution authorizing city staff to hire WHKS Incorporated to develop a professional services agreement for a new pedestrian bridge to cross the Cedar River at 3rd Street Southeast.
Right.
So where are we at in developing a professional services agreement? Is that, are we
That's
trying to
somewhat
line up
where-
what we want first before we do the agreement? That's what you're saying?
Yes, because if you just say we want an agreement for a variety of different bridges, what are they going to bring back to us, not knowing what we really are after as a city council?
They more or less were asking that when they were here. I felt that, we weren't precise enough in terms of exactly what it was that we wanted. And so I think we have to, when it says a professional services agreement for a bridge, that bridge probably has to be defined before they can develop the professional services agreement.
So when do you anticipate having at least some options?
I think we can, the July study session or the first meeting in August.
I think that it should happen before then.
As James said, we have projects, they have projects too, and I'm asking them.
Understand, but I think most of this has already been done. We've already had 2 weeks and we really have nothing to show for it. I mean, you don't have anything to present, and we haven't even talked with the WHKS as far as, what our original resolution was.
So why do we approve resolutions at a meeting if we don't follow them? That's kind of what I'm kind of starting to wonder. Is that just a voluntary thing? Maybe that's not our agenda, then we go a different route? I'm confused why we had the discussion and debated that discussion and then approved it.
I think one of the reasons I voted, well, you heard what I said then. I don't think a good process was followed for identifying what our next.
That's not in question
well, let
here,
me
though.
finish. Yeah, let me finish. So that was one thing, and the other was it was very ill-defined. The resolution itself had no detail.
They should commend staff for trying to save some money, but what I'm hearing here is they shouldn't bother. We should just go out and hire a consultant to do it for us.
That's not what we approved at all. There's no reason to debate it. We know where this is going to go, so I think we're dancing around it, and it's frustrating.
Dave, do you have any comments?
The direction to staff is to stop doing the pre-work that they're doing to save money and just go strictly by what the resolution says. Go out and hire a firm to come up with a professional service agreement to build something.
So they were to come back with a proposal of what that might cost. That was what yeah. So now it's funny that after that was passed, a couple, weeks go by, and then we twist around, it's like, well, no, that was vague, so we're not going to follow what that resolution said. That was approved by the majority of council.
What I'm hearing, and I've not talked to staff, so I don't know any more detail, but what I'm hearing tonight is that they're trying to get their work together in order to pass on the assignment, as the resolution was passed by council, to WHKS.
Move on.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
we're down
almost,
to-
on that topic, almost like, maybe that does sound like a June study session type of thing, that we could look at options potentially. Otherwise, no, I'm on. No, my only other council comments was just to he wasn't going to bring it up, but I'll thank Tab for looking after my son after he had the serious injury on Saturday at the pool, so that was very nice.
Let's clarify that. Come on.
Okay.
It was the they had the scout day where they scout swim and they do some lifeguard training for their lifeguards as far as emergency response, and they picked out Joe as a guinea pig for that. And
He was the drowned victim?
well, he was it was a broken back. Was that what it was supposedly simulating?
I don't know the extent of his injury.
Yeah, they do that, and then they call this emergency
Protected
services just to
information.
make sure and get everything all straightened up. I'm sure.
HIPAA won't let me tell you.
Yeah.
We thank the public for hanging with us through that conversation. Mike?
Just very quickly, kudos to the Waverly PD and the ambulance service and the Bremer County Dispatch for cooperating with us and helping us go through that practice that we do every year.
It's a good, and to build off that, it's a good time. I mean, the scouts get to come and get kind of a kickstart on summer a little bit, but it also does a nice job for getting the lifeguards get that extra training and kind of go run through the situation before it actually is a real life situation that they might have to deal with. So it's good.
Thank you, Tim. Mike?
Nothing to contribute.
Yeah.
Just kind of a follow-up to Pete's question on Cedar Lane. I know early on we had some Nestle semis taking that as their shortcut. I think we've done some signage to help with that. Have we seen many semis out there?
There's been a couple that I've seen, but it's not a high traffic on semis. Nestle's done a very good job. There's been a few. It's more the fact that we've got two lanes.
That's the other comment. I do take that area quite often, and folks do need to slow down in those curves, like by Brown Lane and that type of thing, with walkers, bikers, folks that aren't used to driving that stretch of road. I don't know if we can post it as 15 miles an hour in that area or something like that, just to slow them down.
Well, the issue where the deterioration's becoming quicker is because there's more two-way traffic coming in. Any of us that drive that road on a regular basis know that when you're looking down the road and there's nobody there, you're pulled over towards the middle of the road. There's a lot more two-way traffic. The shoulders are breaking off. Instead of at the 6 and 8 inch range, they're coming into the 2 foot range in a lot of areas that are crumbling, falling apart, because that seal coat that was done on that the last 2 times was bad timing weather-wise, and the base that was put in originally when Cedar Lane was built back in the 50s, the last time with a full build, there were some issues when that was done too. So.
Thank you, Pete. Paula, any comments after your first
Okay,
meeting?
so I'll quit sending people that way on my videos. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I just encourage the public to keep shopping and supporting the businesses that are being affected all the way around, all the way downtown, and all the way in the community. We want to support them all the time, but we really want to support them right now. They would really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you, Paula. More mayoral comment. First, a compliment to the council tonight. I thought the decorum was good. As a group, we handle differences. We have our own opinions. We have people weighing in with us all the time. And we have to handle all these differences as best we can. And normally we handle it like we do tonight. Not always. I thought the Green Bridge discussion, the last meeting I was at, just a little tweaking on my part, and we have to always make sure that when we differ with someone, it doesn't look personal. And I know it's never meant to be, but we got to make sure it doesn't sound. And also interruptions, not so good. People have a right to speak. If we interrupt, it interferes with the flow, and I'll try to do a better job of watching over that. When there is anything that I think is over the top, I'll judge it as best I can. I'll just ask that we rephrase. I'll just kind of interrupt and ask to rephrase and bring it to a conclusion as soon as possible so that we can move on. So I'm going to try to watch the tempi a little bit better. So make sure we don't interrupt, make sure it doesn't get personal, and avoid put-downs as best we can. Generally, we get accomplished. Tonight was wonderful, but it can get out of hand, and I'll try to do a better job, make sure we all stay on the same page. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Adjourn.